ever-presence. It is hard to resist that temptation to contact us at times, isn't it? No matter how great your resolve, how entrenched you are in your position of maintaining no contact and staying away from us, and just as importantly, keeping yourself away from us, there remains that nagging itch to contact us. You have an addiction to narcissists. That addiction wants to be fed, so it creates emotional thinking, which creates plausible, yet illogical reasons, when scrutinized properly, to cause you to try to do something, to breach that no contact. Part of this arises from the concept of ever-presence. Ever-presence is formed in two ways. First of all, there is the way that it is created by the greater or the ultra-narcissist. This is done consciously. So, for example, the greater narcissist may decide to leave a particular item of his at your property. He does so specifically for the purposes of creating a pretext for returning to you at a later juncture to enable him to assert control through a hoover. So, the toiletries, or a console, or a jumper, or a wallet, whatever it might be, are left with you, and at an appropriate point in the dynamic, the narcissist, greater or ultra, will use that as an excuse. I believe I've left my wallet with you. It provides an opportunity to contact in that moment to explain that the item has been left behind, and allows an opportunity for a direct physical hoover, which allows us to assert control and gain the largest amount of fuel shortly thereafter. Be under no illusion that where you're dealing with the greater narcissist or the ultra, this is a premeditated act and is designed to enable the narcissist to assert control over you in two ways in the future. When the narcissist raises the fact that the item has been left behind, and with regard to then hoovering in person thereafter to arrange for you to deliver it or for us to come and collect it. There are other forms of ever-presence, for example, with regard to the creation of our song with you. And the greater or the ultra-narcissist does this in the knowledge of, first of all, the creation of the song in that moment allows the assertion of control in that moment, but thereafter, it also is done because the greater ultra-narcissist knows that in the future, every time you hear that song, you will think about us. That thought in itself provides us with thought fuel, the extent of our power to be able to do that, and it also means that in effect, the door is not closed on us. It's kept open to an extent, which means that should we choose to hoover you, to assert control and draw fuel from you, etc. at a later juncture, we're more likely to meet with success because you've never been able to properly eradicate us. That is how, in a nutshell, ever-presence is dealt with from the perspective of the greater or the ultra-narcissist. Most of you, however, will deal with lesser or mid-range narcissists because they make up the bulk of narcissists. Is it the case then that if they behave in a similar manner, that they are not acting like the greater or the ultra? The answer to that is no, and here's why. Let us take a lower mid-range narcissist, and he leaves his jumper at your house. When he does so at that point, he leaves the jumper primarily because he's no sense of accountability for taking his stuff with him, that he has a sense of entitlement that he can just leave things lying around at your house. And that's why it's done. His narcissism operates in the moment, and it is not, repeat, not thinking about 8 months down the line and a potential hoover. Remember, this is an unaware narcissist. He doesn't know that he hoovers, and his narcissism in his unconscious does not work in a way whereby it's thinking ahead about creating ways to hoover in the future. So the leaving of that jumper is done in that moment, born, for instance, out of a lack of accountability and a sense of entitlement to do that. 8 months later, you come back up on the radar. Let us say the narcissist just happens to think about you, and you enter the sixth sphere of influence. When that happens, the narcissism asks, is this appliance under control? And if the answer is no, it determines, do we have grounds to assert control, starting with the direct assertion of control, the first one, namely a hoover. And it is at that point the narcissism remembers, aha, we left a jumper. We can use that as a pretext, and therefore, in effect, instructs the narcissist to contact you and say, I think I left a jumper at your house. Can I come and get it? And again, that provides two opportunities to hoover. The first is to contact you to say, I've left a jumper. Can I come and get it? And then to come and collect it, or for you to deliver it. Perhaps the narcissist will just turn up and ring the doorbell. I think I've left a jumper with you. Could I have it back, please? And thus, control is asserted and fuel is obtained. The lesser mid-range narcissist has not planned for that to happen. The lesser or mid-range narcissist didn't leave it behind thinking, I know, this will give me a good reason to hoover in the future. And that is the distinction between the creation of ever-presence, where it allows a future hoover. Similarly, the fact of the jumper being left behind wasn't an intentional act by that narcissist to create a reminder, but it works in the same way. So where the leaving behind of an item is a pretext for a hoover, that is done in a calculated fashion where greater or ultra, and is not, but is used by the narcissism of a lesser or mid-range narcissist at the time of a hoover trigger occurring in the future to utilize the pre-existing action to their benefit, in effect dragging up the past. So it's similar to how a lesser or mid-range narcissist will suddenly make reference to something that happened a long time ago in order to control you in the now. When it comes to the creation of a reminder which impacts upon you, heightening your emotional thinking and in effect keeping you tenderized for the purposes of asserting control over you and meaning that a future hoover is more likely to meet with success because you remain vulnerable, because you've not been able to close the door completely upon us. Again, that is premeditated and calculated where undertaken by the greater or the ultra, but it is just a collateral consequence of the in-the-moment behaviour of the lesser and mid-range narcissist. So again, let us say the lesser or mid-range narcissist has left a jumper lying around. He did so because of his sense of entitlement and lack of accountability. It just so happens that the collateral consequence of that is that it causes you to keep picking up that jumper after disengagement, smelling it and being reminded of the narcissist. He didn't intend for that to happen, but it works to his advantage because it creates ever-presence nevertheless. Similarly, if a lesser or mid-range narcissist creates our song, that's done to control you in the moment, by making you feel special, by making you feel wanted. It also has the collateral consequence, which was not premeditated, that in the future, every time you hear that song, you are reminded of that narcissist. Your emotional thinking rises. It might cause you to provoke a hoover trigger by contacting the narcissist, or at the very least, it maintains your emotional thinking at a higher level so that you remain susceptible to any hoovers that might come along at the appropriate juncture. So the creation of a song or a fragrance or a special time of day, where done by the greater or ultra, is to assert control in that moment, but also to create an event which can be used against you in the future in some way by keeping that reminder of us in your lives. With the lesser and mid-range narcissist, it is done in the moment to assert control and happens to have the collateral consequence at a later juncture. They do not intend, at the point of creating the concept of our song, for that to be a haunting reminder in the future. Of course, it may feel to you, not being an expert on narcissism, that this has been done specifically by that lesser or mid-range narcissist, but it is important for you to understand that that is not the case. Whether we cast you aside or whether you made the bold decision to exorcise us from your life, the effect of this ever-presence is difficult to control. The various sounds, tastes, images and scents that immediately bring about a memory of us, often a pleasant and happy one, have all been placed throughout your life. And as I say, this has either been done specifically and in a calculated fashion, where greater or ultra, or as a collateral consequence of the assertion of control in the moment back in the past, which has an impact upon you in the now. This means that your daily routine is such that you can't play a certain piece of music, eat a certain meal, go to a certain place, or even look upon a certain view without that crystal clear memory forming in your mind of that wonderful and exciting time that we had together during the golden period. These memories evoke powerful and strong emotions, both good and bad, and that is the purpose of ever-presence. The effect of ever-presence makes you think about us, causing you to enter into one of the arenas of interaction. Most people are creatures of emotion, and the nature of our victims, being empathic individuals, means that you are possessed of a greater emotional output than others, and you have emotional thinking. Being governed by emotional thinking means that rather than instantly dispel the thought of us, you embrace the memory, you allow it to form and bloom as you savour the effect it has upon you again. You can hear our voices as we reminded you of how much we loved you. You know now that that was a false declaration, but the emotion as you remember this event, when perhaps you pick up that card or picture or teddy bear, the emotion which courses through your body still causes that reaction within you. You feel, and you continue to think about what has happened to you, whether it is reminiscing about the supposed good times or remarking upon the hurt that has been occasioned. You bring us back to life, and in so doing, you may well suffer an adverse consequence, and you will certainly feed your addiction and keep your emotional thinking higher than it ought to be. This hinders your progress towards escaping us, because it is not just a case of having nothing to do with us on a day-to-day basis in terms of not spending time with us and not communicating with us. It is driving us from every facet of your life. And if you are continuing to have reminders caused by this ever-presence of our involvement in your life, your progress towards zero impact will be slowed, possibly even halted. A particular song may play on the radio. You sensibly took the step of deleting all those playlists that we created for you on Spotify so that you wouldn't be tempted to wallow as those memorable songs played again. Notwithstanding this purge, you cannot legislate for what is played on the radio, and your hand reaches for the off switch. But you can't remove the song because the emotional thinking has got hold of you. And as the first few chords are played, you are instantly reminded of how we played that song as we led you by the hand into the bedroom, ready to make up to you after we had rowed and fought. When you heard that song, you always regarded it as some kind of peace offering, presented by us in order to resolve the conflict. Of course, it was just another form of manipulation. You didn't realize that this was being done as a means of manipulating your emotions to draw further fuel from you and assert control over you, but you were content to allow yourself to interpret it the way that you wanted. All that we required was your fuel and your control. As you listened to the song, stood in your living room, your eyes drift to the chair where we would always sit as we watched television or read a book. You cannot help but wonder yet again, where did it go wrong? Why did we treat you as we did? Another unanswered question forms in your mind. It may even be the case that you are checking through your finances, and as you scrutinize your bank statements for signs of unusual activity, your eyes fall on that monthly direct debit or standing order that we created when we established a liability in your name. A benign manipulation that you are now stuck with, and even though we have long since gone, having disengaged you, the cost that this caused you remains, and you are given a reminder of us once again, the ever-presence. And this only goes to exacerbate the other financial problems that you may have been left with. You know that you should throw the thought from your mind. That is logic, but it is hard. The logic tries to tell you to put it to one side, to kill the thought and bury it dead. But emotional thinking is still too strong, and gets hold of the thought and keeps it in your mind. It will not allow you to do so. It seizes on this piece of ever-presence to feed the addiction to the narcissist. It causes you to become angry, and you scrunch up the bank statement, your hands shaking with the anger at how we hurt you, how we took your trust and we abused it, how you gave us everything, absolutely everything in your pursuit of this supposed perfect love, and instead we tore it asunder, we trampled on it, we betrayed it, and we threw it back in your face. How dare we take your love and treat you this way? Who do we think we are? It matters not. You are now sat thinking about us. You're getting worked up about it. You're increasing your emotional thinking further, and this could lead, through the salami slicing that occurs with emotional thinking, as set out in the video Slice, Slice and Slice Again, to enter into further arenas of interaction, endangering you. This is how it operates. Ever-presence aims to keep you thinking about us, to cause you to potentially contact us, to make you susceptible to us contacting you at some point, whether it is a week or a decade later. To achieve this, ever-presence is created either intentionally by the greater or the ultra, or as a collateral consequence by the lesser or mid-range narcissist. To achieve this, our narcissism creates a situation where there is a need for you to contact us. You want to ask us why we treated you this way. You want to know whether we really did love you or not. You want to know if we are happy with the new person that we have on our arm, and what have they got that you have not. You want the opportunity to launch into a tirade and give us a piece of your mind. All of this is driven by your emotional thinking, as it corrupts various of your narcissistic and empathic traits, and you must resist this. There are unanswered questions and unfinished business, and this makes it so hard for you to resist. You know logically that you should not engage with us, but you want to find out why we did as we did, because we just vanished and left you wondering and pondering. Your truth seeker trait is corrupted. You want to understand why we treated you so badly when all you ever did was love us, because in your world, that makes no sense. The ever-presence triggers you to think about us once again, and the nature of this unfinished business means that your emotional thinking gets hold of it, causes those thoughts to whir round and round in your mind, and increasing the temptation for you to contact us. If you know where we are, if you hear that we are back in town, if you know that there is an upcoming event that we will attend where you will also be there, the desire triggered by this ever-presence and the emotional thinking getting hold of it to contact us again is significant. You tell yourself that you will keep your cool. You swear that you will just ask the questions and get the answers, although of course you will not, because if you engage with us, you increase your emotional thinking further, and you're walking into the lion's den. This doesn't mean necessarily that you'll be manipulated further, but you are exposing yourself to a risk that you need not do. Your good intentions, the stated discipline, will invariably falter, because as you do engage with us, whether you call us, text us, or even spend time with us, hoping to address these pieces of unfinished business, you are then succumbing to additional emotional thinking, causing you to lose insight, and moreover, allowing us to train our sights on you once again, reach into our bag of manipulative charms and luck to draw fuel from you at the very least, and quite possibly pull you back into the relationship with us once again. You may think that once bitten, twice shy, but our bite is both delicious and deadly, and because of the presence of ever-presence, its effect, and its relationship with emotional thinking, there can be no gap between us and you. If you want to know how to deal with this, first of all, you need to undertake a purge, and that is set out in my book, Exorcism. If you then want to be able to conquer these thoughts, to ensure that having reduced as much as possible any potential triggers that will cause you to think about us by removing the ever-presence as much as you possibly can, and then to enable you to kick us out of your head, go to the Knowledge Vault and access the final battle, how to stop thinking about the narcissist. Many people have done so and have found it invaluable, enabling them to move forward. You must purge, and then you must apply the discipline that is required to beat down that emotional thinking. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.